Previously, we studied that gender discourses position women and men in certain ways, and at the same time, like men and women take certain positions which constitute gender as well. So, if you look at a text where you don't know whether it is said by a female or whether it's said by a male, but if you look at just the text, you can guess whether it was female or it was male who said it or who wrote it, right? So broader gender discourses covers, for example, broader gender discourses cover femininity and masculinity, or gender differences that we have normally. However, if we look at the more specific ones, that would be, for example, that women are more emotional, and certain, or men never cry or weep, or they never lament about something. So that is something which is constitutive and ideological. And this raises two questions. The first question is that what identities are created as a result of different positioning through discourses, even if it is in different contexts or even different situation. So the identities, what kind of identities are created, right? The way we um, position or change our discourse. So if certain discourse is used in a context, what kind of identity would be created? So for example, if a female is a manager and she is being very polite, so this kind of discourse as a manager, how would it affect, or what kind of identity would it generate or create? The second question is, what opportunities or inequalities are created and maintained as a result of these identities that are created as a result of different positioning, right? So these different positioning identities, what opportunities and inequalities are created because of that? So if a female is very harsh, or she is like she does not follow the rules which are set by the society for a female, so then we consider her someone who's like very manly, and there are certain opportunities which she won't be able to take even in workplace. Discourse of femininity and motherhood. Now, we know that normally females are only associated with something which is like related to motherhood or taking care of kids, or because she's very emotional. So that is why normally the dominant discourses, even in the workplace, is is all related to femininity. That is when it comes to females. So uh, discourses which are associated normally with females are that they mainly have even not the way females speak, but also the way males or females communicate about females. That also comes in discourse of femininity. So what is normally the um, research that is done? When research is done in any such workplace, and when they ask male as well as females about the views, that how would you prefer to be a female in the workplace, or what kind of female is like is seen to be working in the workplace environment. So they have always the image of someone who's wearing high heels, very smart, slim, sexually very attractive. Such kind of women are always in these ideal workplaces or ideal situations. Even movies represent such ideas. And if you look at athletes, so athletes are supposed to be like, we would never, even if an athlete if an athlete is wearing some normal dresses, like they dress up wearing bangles or something like that, if it's like Pakistani cricketer, let's suppose. So we take it very, odd or strange, that why are they wearing this? Because they are not they are playing sports, they're athletes, so they cannot be like that. So something which is, we are associating it with the workplace, as well as we associate some things with the females. Why do we associate females not being like, ordinary, following fashion and wearing lipstick and wearing bangles when they are in sports? Because we consider sports to be only for males. That is why. It is also observed that, when females they go on leaves, maternity leaves, and when they come back, they observe that even their opinion is no more valued. So there is this extract 6G, in which Carrie is a director who has been, on maternity leave, and she comes back. So these are her views. So as an example, you can read and understand how people take females, as in, discourse of femininity, or even in, like, even the females themselves are talking about the same things. So in Pakistani context, it is very common that if a female is a working lady, then it is observed that normally these kind of discourses are there, that is, it was her personal choice, and now she has to work at home, as well as she has to do dishes, and she has to work, take care of kids and all that, take care of her husband, um, as well as she has to perform completely good at her job as well. However, this is not the case with the men. Like when they come back home, it's not their job. So we have assigned roles, and according to those roles, there is something which is called double standard over here. Like we have set double standards for male as well as for female. So if a man is not working, we do not expect him to cook at home. If someone is jobless, a man who is jobless, we do not expect that man to clean the house. We do not expect that man to, you know um, do chores of home. And that is why it is double standard, which comes in any communities of practice. So this modern career woman, it is very common nowadays. Like we are looking at the transition that is happening over here in our society, which has already occurred in other countries, but here in Pakistan it has initiated, and we are looking at our society changing, that we sometimes appreciate these modern career women who thinks that they have to carry their career further. It is nowadays somewhat acceptable, because of which there are two kinds of identities created. One is the career woman identity, and one is the women who stay at home. But it has created one another kind of discourse as well, which is not mentioned here. And that discourse is that we divide these women. We say in Urdu, ghar banane wali aurat, and the other is like the female who never stays at home, who's working. So does it mean that she is not actually ghar banane wali aurat? So these are the concepts which are taking place, and new discourses are generating now and then. But the traditional view of femininity was associated in foreign countries as well. It was associated with sexual attractiveness and family orientation. These are the only two things. And if you remember, I gave you an assignment on Pride and Prejudice, and you might have seen these both very vividly over there. That you have to um, talk in a way, you have to be very polite, and these are the things that you only need to make a family. That's what a female is considered to do in our society. That is the traditional view of femininity. They are looked at through the view of, or a lens of, a mother only. which is actually the only legitimate social role which is given to a female. Other than that, if she is going, astray from that legitimate role, then they are considered, or she is considered someone who's wrong. However, if a male does that, it's not even an issue, because it's not that only females are always going to take care of kids. It's male's task as well. But we do not consider it as, something, as there is no concept as fatherhood. There's only this concept of motherhood over there. So fatherhood is the concept, but fatherhood concept encompasses only taking care of kids in the aspect of financial in a financial aspect. However, female is always going to take care of kids. Why females construct this social acceptable identities? Because they are avoiding this negative evaluation. So you might have seen that if normally females say that we love kids and they're so cute and they're so nice, this means that she is a very legitimate, proper female who is actually fulfilling the social role, because a female should like kids. But if you find someone who says, like, I don't like kids or something like that, so instantly there is this image that, oh, why is she deviating from this social role that we are assigning her? So that's because we have determined it in our minds and in our society. So it's just because females uh, follow these things and do all that because they want to avoid this negative evaluation by the society. Well, we all have heard it so many times, females crocodile tears, because we have always associated this emotionality with only females. So which has led to different conversations and discourses in our society. If you I hope you can read this all and understand, but if you come to the extract which is given on the next slide, read the extract and you'll see that there is, like, the extract is from an interview which is like one of the male interviewees in a manufacturing company, and its name of is Martin. He replies to the question of whether he would prefer to work under the supervision of a woman or a man. Read the excerpt and you'll get to know what are the views of male when it comes to females' emotionality and how efficient they are at work.
There are certain ideologies which state that men and women are completely interchangeable in terms of status and in terms of power. However, others have some views with the gender ideologies that are set in institution and organizational cultures which promote very implicit androcentrism. Now, a tacit is implicit, that is not very vivid. Androcentrism is when you fail to challenge the value and the social structure. This can be linked with the glass ceiling feature, which we are going to discuss, which has been talked about in the previous slides. However, it was not explained because it will come later. So because there are certain social structures which we cannot break and which are the reasons for the gender inequalities. Men normally think that they are someone who are not to be blamed, so they normally take themselves out of the equations. That is what they normally do. Like, if there is something happening in the society, like they will so easily take themselves out of it, and only females, like, as if um, everything that is happening is, to be fulfilled by the females. This is also evident in the ways in which female managers opposes normalization and domination. So how female managers, as an example, opposes normalization and domination is through two discourses. The first one is discourse of deconstruction, and the second one is discourse of liberation or reconstruction. Now these two are two different ideas. The discourse of deconstruction reproduces and then challenges dominant discourses and explore new ways of understanding, which actually means that you stand for yourself. Females in different positions, in managerial positions, where they are, breaking through the glass ceiling, and they are going ahead, and they are challenging the discourses. However, in addition to that, there are in the same way there is a discourse of liberation as well, which describes females as, executives who attempt to resist the dominant discourses by ignoring them and asserting their personal autonomy. So for example, if someone is in a position where the where they're in a dominant position, or if they are not even in a dominant position, they actually stand for themselves the way a man would. So this is something which is creating this something called personal autonomy in forming a discourse which goes mixed discourse, which is mixed features of masculinity and femininity. So that may also cover in discourse of liberation, which we have also discussed in, I guess, the last in the third last lecture, something like that. Okay, so Witherell conducted research, and Witherell et al. Conducted research through interviews from the final year students, and they were asked the question that how employment opportunities would be provided, to the women. They were asked to, give their ideas or views. Now, if you read the example in the next slide, you'll see that we have two important aspects which are identified, in which there is this one thing where female says that equal opportunities are to be provided, right? However, male are taking themselves out of the equation, and they are basically going towards the practical consideration. That is, females cannot do that, and females cannot, work hard, and they are emotional. They normally have to go for they have to quit job in the mid, because they would get married or something like that. So these are practical considerations which they keep in mind, and then they are giving answers. However, female are talking about equal opportunities. Here in this example, you'd see that equal opportunities, female student is actually focusing on the point that though females have certain problems, however, still they'll be given equal opportunities. Both male and females would be provided with equal opportunities. However, if you look at the males conversation, you'll find some practical consideration over there. That is, even comparing, two identical qualified and identically, identical in personalities. That is, when a job is advertised, you require a manager. You don't require a female manager or a male manager. You require a manager. When a job is advertised, they say teachers are required. So if someone with equal qualities, which is required for that job only, because there is nothing like that as, should be male or a female, then whom would you prefer if one is male and one is female? And the answer goes with you can sympathize with him for perhaps wondering if the female is not going to get married and have children, and then there's always the risk that she may not come back after. So they are pointing out at the possibilities, like practical consideration, that this is normally the case with the females. So they are already making up their mind. However, there are um, cases where females would always come back for the job, and they are determined to carry their careers, but that is what male think. That is the kind of discourses that we have in prevailing in our society. Now, this is the reason that normally females do not effort to go for the change, as well as males. So there is not overall change occurring in our society. Secondly, the reason that women normally hit the glass ceiling in many professions, however it is very difficult for them to go through that, is because of these practical considerations. Now, hit the glass ceiling means that there are certain things that you can see through the glass. That is, someone becoming a female, someone becoming a manager, or being promoted to a higher position. This is something that they've set in their mind. So for example, if there is a position, even in politics, if there is a position and they want to achieve that, it is very rare that a female will be given that chance. So they reach the glass ceiling, but it is very difficult for them to go through that. Double blind is when it comes to workplace. For females, it's always this dual constraint that females have to face, and that is because if they adopt more assertive speech styles, then they are associated with masculine speech. If they are going for something which is associated with femininity, that is very mild kind of words and very polite, then they are considered as ineffective and they are considered as weak. So there is this problem for that. There's this conflict, that what should they do? That conflict is called double blind in any workplace, where they have to go through these two extreme points, where there is dual constraint that normally females are facing. That if they go for more uh, mm, I would say masculine speech type, then they are normally targeted. That is, their evaluation is negative, and they are being viewed as overly aggressive and unfeminine. So these are the problems that they are facing. However, if on the other hand they are more um, have features like femininity, so then they are negatively evaluated because of being ineffective or weak or not proficient or not professional. These are the terminologies that they use for them. That is called double blind. Um, Kendall's conducted a research, and her findings raised some issues which are existing of double blind as well as of glass ceiling. In her analysis, Kendall found that a participant named Carol, which we have already talked about in previous slides as well, not in this one but in the previous lectures, the female technical director at the radio station, who was very competent at her job and was able to break through the ceiling glass, but she was demoted to the lower position, because demotion is one is promotion, one is demotion. So rather than you know retaining her on her position, she was demoted. So this is the example where you can see that the double bind and the glass ceiling both are there. That is, when you look at the example, you'll see that Carol was actually sustaining her senior management position. However, she was, this confusion was there. If she is more focusing on her feminine features, then she is not competent. If she is more, focusing on masculine features, then she is challenging the male uh, colleagues, and then it becomes a problem. So though she was able to break through the glass ceiling, that is, she reached the managerial position, higher senior position, but still, because of this double blind, she couldn't make it or sustained it, and that is why it remains a glass ceiling for her. There is normally two linguistic disadvantages that we consider when it comes to public domain, because in public domain we consider men as superior and men as, proficient. The first one is that females are normally, they are less skillful in communicating information. That is, their referential functions in the discourse is less as compared to males, because they focus more on the emotional ones, affective. The second one is that they are more cooperative. That is, they are more emotional and more cooperative language. They use more cooperative language, as we have seen in the previous lectures when it was, the patient and the doctor communication. The discourse styles that they use are normally very fluent, and that is why in workplace context or in public domains, it is normally considered as negative. If we look at the example of women police officers, so we'll get to know that they are changing. We can see that they are normally changing their communication to, more masculine ones, and they are avoiding using cooperative strategies. However, at the same time, we see that um, that females are bringing change in those traditional notions of how man and a female should communicate, and we are seeing the difference that women are more uh, are now using more masculine features in their language. There's one more important question which concerns the glass ceiling, and that is the normally it is, it is there is an invisible barrier that seems to keep some exceptionally capable women from going to breaking through the glass ceiling, just because we consider this idea overall that, female cannot be cannot take this position. So can you imagine that there would be a time that there will be a, the president of Pakistan, or or let's forget about president, we can see CEOs. So you'd really find anywhere, it's so rare that a female is CEO of a company, because they never give a chance to the female, though females are very um, competent. However, they are not given a chance. Now, in the comparison of glass ceiling, this glass elevator is a term used, and this glass elevator means is something which is an invisible leverage that propels even relatively, these men who are not very proficient. Like if you compare a female with a male, any proficient female who's compared with a male who's not very proficient and is, average in his profession or in his abilities, but this man would have more opportunities as compared to the female. However, this point is very necessary to be mentioned, that is, uh, this glass ceiling and glass elevator terms are actually used by the linguist, and it is the borrowed terms from the field of business and management and sociology. Because glass ceiling does not mean that only because of gender we are not allowing someone to go ahead, or only because of gender some men who are not even capable as compared to the females to achieve certain position, and that is glass elevator. it's it covers everything, that is, it covers, for example, if you are not giving certain position to a female, or if you're not giving certain position to black, or if you're not giving certain position to minorities, it covers all of it. But here, because we are only concerned with the gender discourses and how it has effect at work, therefore we are only looking at the gender. However, glass ceiling and glass elevator are the terms that can also be used in terms of, minorities as well. Just as minorities are not given chance to achieve certain position, even though the positions are already available. But we would prefer someone who is already a Muslim, let's suppose, in Pakistan, to a certain position, even if someone from another religion is is still more competent than the one who's Muslim, but we will give the chance to that person. So this is the glass elevator and the glass ceiling um, effect. However, here we are only concerned with the gender. As an example, if you look at the metaphors or the terminologies that we are using in the field of sports or for wars, they all reinforce masculine discourses, which means that we are marginalizing, female behaviors. However, they are the part of it. For example, when we say this very word, dushmani, we instantly know that it's, the war of the males. Or in sports, when you say the word athlete, the first thing that comes to your mind is, a male, because you don't think as, the first thing would never come to your mind as, athlete being a female. So that's the reason that we are actually marginalizing feminine behavior and females.